Hello, hello, book lovers of YouTube. Welcome to another episode of the Biblio Files. Today on episode 11, we are lucky enough to have the BookTube channel, Carol Marie Reads. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for asking me. I've been super excited about this, and I've been watching all your other ones too. Like, I've been really I found a lot of new booktubers through you.
Oh, great.
So, especially fantasy ones. So,
yes, awesome. Awesome. Oh, that's so good to hear. And I'm glad we haven't scared you off. So that's
no.
These interview questions.
I watch a lot of bigger fantasy channels.
Okay.
So I feel like I was finding some like small, I mean, they weren't like tiny channels, but I was finding some ones that I hadn't seen like on my suggestions and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Very cool. All right. Well, phew, I didn't scare you off. They're not too intimidating of interview questions. But before we dive into this, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your channel. So those that are tuning in and watching, if you haven't heard of Carol Marie Reads, what can they expect to find on your BookTube channel?
So I'm a pretty wide reader when it comes to different genres. I'm a mood reader for the most part as well. And then like a seasonal reader. Like I'm one of those people, like I prefer my fantasy in the colder months and like maybe my horror in the summer and the fall. But I'll read whatever anytime. But I am mostly a horror thriller reader with fantasy. I like the weird stuff too. Like those horror books that you read them and you're like, what did I just read? That's the kind of stuff that I like. And so on my channel, I do mostly recently, it's just been vlogs because that's what's easy right now, being a stay-at-home mom. But I'm hoping in 2024, like we were talking earlier, I want to get back to TBRs and normal, consistent wrap-ups because I feel like I miss that structure.
Mm-hmm. It definitely adds a lot to have that structure and guidelines, and sometimes in vlogs, you might just miss like one of the books you're reading on the side. So wrap-ups are a great way to capture your thoughts on that. And
I forget, like I'll forget that I'm doing a vlog. Like, oh, what is this? And it's like stuff from weeks ago. I'm like, oh man.
There's no concept of time in a BookTube video though. So I think you're fine. I always think it's funny in vlogs when the person says, oh, I'm sorry I haven't checked in with you for a while. And I'm like, it's literally been 5 seconds since your last clip. I'm okay. Awesome. Well, we have one threat. I don't know if this is for you or for me.
I don't know.
Be nice. One of my friends. Which one? Which one, John? Which one is the friend, huh?
He's been around. I think he's been watching my channel like probably since I started, I think.
Yeah, he's a great supporter. Hi, John.
Yeah. So I don't know who he's referring to.
That's our question for you, John. We expect to see you in the comments. Who is the friend you're referring to? All right. Well, if you're tuning in and this is your first time watching the Biblio Files, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We have 10 interview questions that we're going to go through. The first 3 are standard for each guest of the Biblio Files, kind of a get to know you and ease you into kind of the more hard-hitting questions. And Carol Marie has seen these, so she's had time to prepare, but then we're going to dive into 5 bookish would you rather questions that she has not seen yet. So we're going to see if we can stump her and basically just learn more about your reading preferences and habits. That's kind of the fun element of this. So let's go ahead and dive in with question number 1. What are you reading right now?
Well, we talked about earlier before we started Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Slowly making my way through that. I feel like it's not really a reflection of who I am as a reader though. Like I very rarely pick up anything outside of the adult genre or adult age group. And so this is new adult, young adult, I don't know. But it's something fun for me to read and not really have to like dissect. I'm also reading Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is the 3rd book in the Locked Tomb series. I've read this book multiple times, so it's a reread. And then NonFiction November is something I try to participate in, like just like at least reading a book throughout the month. So I brought it up here so I could remember the title, but it's Dark Archives, a librarian's investigation into the science and history of books bound in human skin by Megan Rosenblum. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What does the cover look like?
Yeah, she only included one photo, which is unfortunate, but it's her. I'm not that far into it, but she is talking about curating these books and who keeps them, where they come from and their history, and like the different testing that they've developed over time to determine if it's actually human skin and not just like family lore. This book was passed down, you know, kind of thing. So they are out there. They do exist, scientifically proven. So it's kind of, I kind of want one, but it's, and then it's getting into the argument, like somebody said, well, that we need to bury this book because it was a person and now it's like a dead body. And I'm like, I don't know where I stand on any of that, but it's very interesting so far.
I don't know if I'd want to touch it. That just seems really
But
weird.
they're so old that I don't think you would, like the way she describes it, it's very much just like leather. Like, so if you touch a leather book.
That's true. I mean, that's
why they're doing these tests, is because there's not one way to accurately, like just by touch or looking at it, they can't tell. So.
Oh, that's interesting. And that kind of fits in with like your brand of what you were saying, like the weird stuff, the weird horror.
Yeah.
Because that is a nonfiction book that I've never heard of. And I didn't even know of that topic. So that's really fascinating.
Yeah. From what it sounds like, it's like maybe a doctor had one of his textbooks hundreds of years ago, like bound in human skin or something. Like that's the kind of people or the kind of places that they're finding these books. So
Biology 101.
I know, but now I'm kind of like, okay, anytime I pick up a book, a really old book, because I like to collect old books, I'm like, what if?
Oh yeah, you're going to be thinking about that.
Yeah, I've got books from like the 1800s, the 1700s. I've got really old books. And I'm like, that'd be pretty cool.
It is. I don't know if I'd say cool, but it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
It would creep me out if I found out one of my books was human. It's like a mole in like the top right corner.
Ew, yeah. No.
All right. Well, question number 2, you kind of spoke to your most read genre, but how about subgenre? So you mentioned you read like mood read for the seasons, but within horror or within fantasy, what are some subgenres that you tend to gravitate towards the most?
So I think like if I were to look over my whole life, what really got me into fantasy when I was like a little kid was like King Arthur. And all those legends surrounding King Arthur, I was obsessed. I was like, I wanted to read not just like the fun tales and like Le Morte d'Arthur and things like that. I wanted to like read the history and find out like where could this have been inspired from? Could he have been real? Like I was in it. So I don't know, medieval fantasy, I guess that would be a subgenre. Yeah. And like some tropes, I lean towards The Chosen One, even though I would never, like I look back at my books, like Robin Hobb, The Realm of the Elderlings. Like I love Fitz. I love that series. So, and I grew up on Harry Potter. When it comes to horror though, I like the weird stuff, the dark stuff. Not necessarily like, what is that called? Dark? What is extreme horror?
Oh, extreme.
Like, I will read extreme horror. I have read extreme horror. But when I say dark, I just mean like bleak, gothic, that kind of stuff.
Okay. That's a really good range. Really fascinating. How far have you read all of the Realm of the Elderlings books?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite like sub trilogy or series within that?
And
I
want to kind of like I want to like not include Live Ship and Rain Wilds just because they're not fits, but I love Live Ship. Like that is so good.
I'm reading it now, and that's one of the series I have to finish before the end of the year, and I cannot say I'm loving it, I miss Fitz.
No. Yeah. It's Robin Hobb is like just gonna rip your heart out and stomp on it. Like,
But the entire time, it's not like a one moment. It's an entire torturous 900 pages per book.
Yeah.
So
I think Royal Assassin is like one of my top books of the entire world, but maybe the Tawny Man trilogy might be my favorite. I'm not sure.
okay.
It's really hard to choose.
I know, right?
They're
it's
just so
question.
good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to continue in that world. Hi, Venus.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
I think I got all my subgenres.
Yeah. Some good tropes in there.
I don't venture too far out of, which is bad. Like, I try to read like from a wide range of different authors, like sex, gender, race, and stuff, but like I'm still leaning towards the same tropes even if I'm doing that.
Well, you have your favorites, right? And
yeah, like I know what I like
and escape. So yeah.
I've read many books. I've always been a voracious reader. Like I've always did that. Like as a kid, I always read. I've never like not read except for like in college when you literally didn't have the time to. Yeah. So I know what I like, and I don't want to waste my time.
I think that's wise. I think that's really wise. Well, since you've been reading your whole life, what would you say is a favorite book of all time? Which is like the hardest question to ask any book lover. It doesn't have to be the number one, but maybe just one of your all-time favorites.
Can we just like chat about a few?
Yeah, of course.
I think everyone who comes on here is like, okay, we can't do one. Like, no.
Oh yeah, there's no way. There's no way.
So I think one book that I think a lot of people know me for liking is Your House is on Fire, Your Children All Gone by Stephen Keesby. This is like set at the end of World War II in Germany and like a small town that's kind of cut off from the rest of the world. And you're following like 4 different kids, and it's like coming of age horror. You don't know if it's supernatural. You don't know if like these things that are happening in the town, if those things are supernatural or if it's just bad people. Like it's following these children and their antics as they pull pranks on people, and they get worse and worse and worse. And then they're surrounded by adults in this town who are also really horrible people. It's an amazing book, but it's very bleak, dark. Okay. Another one, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, is like my favorite classic of all time. I read that book so many times. I used to read it like every year in the fall, like because it just has the perfect setting. Robin Hobb, we talked about. I am a big Stephen King fan, so my favorite is It. I love coming of age. That's a trope and subgenre. Coming of age horror is like top tier for me. And then We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Berry.
Oh, that's on the 80s like that setting, right?
What'd you say?
It's like 80s or 90s setting?
Yeah. I think it's the 1989 like school year or whatever, but it's New England set, and it's labeled under horror, but it's very quirky and fun. And I think if you played sports throughout your life and been a part of a team, like it kind of adds to it. Like it's a really fun book. And then Michael McDowell is like a favorite author. And then We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson.
Ooh, okay.
And my last one will be Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. So,
wow, that's a wide range.
Yeah. And Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. Like I feel like I'm all over the place.
Oh, I love Just Like Home. That has to be one of my favorite horror books. That's a good one. Yeah,
I feel like if you were to like look at my shelf of where I keep a lot of my favorites, like another one would be like The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. Yeah. It's the quirky stuff, the weird stuff, like maybe it has like dark humor in it. Like that's my kind of vibe.
I dig it. That is awesome. It's a good list. That was like your top 10.
Oh no, there's so many just flying through my head right now. Like that's all I could do for you, okay? That's all I can narrow it down.
Well, see, I know because I've been watching your videos for a long time, and I know that you love horror, and I always correlate your channel with Stephen King. too, but I think of a lot of horror books. And so I want to know, what book has scared you the most? What is the scariest book you've ever read?
So this was really hard because I feel like when it comes to horror, I don't go back and think that book, like the entirety of this book scared me the most. I have like memories in my head of different moments in books that like messed me up. But I will say the prologue of Stolen Tongues, it could have ended right there and been done.
The scariest.
That is the scariest thing I've ever read. And I don't want to like hype it up too much because I know some people like just didn't. I know some people don't like that book, and it is too long and it gets repetitive. But when we start talking about sleepwalking, sleep talking, the beings, I don't even like to say what those beings are, but there's a show on TV with a ranch about them. Like, as soon as we get into that stuff, I am so terrified. Like, it bothers me so much. And I think the sleepwalking thing is like lack of control and man.
Yeah, not being in control of what you say, what you do.
Yes. And like it is that prologue, I could read that prologue over and over. Like that's all I needed. The book was fun, but like that prologue was perfect. Darcy Coates is an author that I want to mention where I would refer to her as cozy horror. But because she has a formula for the most part in her books, like there's you've got your main character, maybe they're moving to a house and it turns out to be haunted or something like that. It just seems to go in the same kind of flow, but she really writes some extremely creepy scenes of like people being chased by things. Specifically the book, The Haunting of Lee Harker, I think it's the prologue in that book too. This girl's like in her house being hunted down by this ghost and she's like trying to hide in a dresser or something in a closet. And I just remember being like, I was like, I can't do the way she just describes the being moving or what noises they make. Like, even though I would say, oh, I'm going to read this cozy horror, she can still creep me out pretty good.
Yeah, that's a great example. That's fantastic. It sticks out in your mind as a very vibrant scene or event.
Yeah. That Stolen Tongues, man. I
remember starting that book and it was nighttime and I had to go turn the lights on. And then I kept reading and I was like, I can't even do this home alone at night. Like, this is not the right environment because it was so scary. It was the parrot, right?
I don't want to like spoil anything, but just and her talking and or where the parrot was saying like, oh, we're home or somebody's here or something. I was like, no.
Yeah. Horror lovers that are watching this video, if you haven't checked out Stolen Tongues, definitely do. And I'd agree with you. Like, I don't like the direction the book went, like past the halfway point. And I was kind of over it, too drawn out. And I don't like the why behind the horror was so dumb. Yeah. But still, that first half was so powerful to me that it's one of my favorite horror books of all time because it was that terrifying and that good. So,
and I wonder, I might be wrong, but maybe that book was a Reddit or creepypasta turned book. So maybe like it just took on too much or something. But yeah, that creeps me out. And then I also want to mention Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi, I believe is his last name. This is turn of the century, like boys living at a school for like orphans or kids in trouble. And like they go and they stay there and it's ran by like priests and brothers and everything. So it's like a Catholic church type thing. And like one night the police show up and they have this man with them and they claim that he was caught doing weird rituals in the woods and they need their help because a snowstorm's coming. And so the priest like takes them in and it turns into like this demonic type thing. Very creepy, but I did cry at the end.
Okay. That sounds like it could be a good winter horror.
Yes. Yeah. It's definitely one of my favorite books I've read this year. It was really good.
Oh, that's good to know. Man, those are some good recommendations. Hello, Bex Reads. We have a previous Biblio Files guest joining us in the comments. Welcome. All right. So we were talking about horror books. This segues perfectly. Talking about horror books, talking about tropes that you like. What horror trope do you think that you personally would excel in?
Like if I had to write a novel.
If you were a character
Oh,
in one of these horror books, do you think you'd
like,
excel against zombies?
okay. So I have to be the final girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think? What is your strength? Are you like fast? Could you run fast? Haunted house?
Okay, so like the zombies are like normal zombies where they like walk and stuff. Piece of cake. I got it. I'm a good shot. And I can run.
Okay.
And I can hide. Like, I just lock me away in the house. I got plenty of books I haven't read yet.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about it this way. Because anything that's like, if I gotta swim, if there's water involved, no, I'm scared of deep water. I'm not gonna.
How would you do in a dark coat haunted house?
I might do okay. I grew up Catholic, so I feel like I might have some connections to like call a priest or something.
That is the best answer.
But also I would like just be like, you're here, I'm here. Like, let's just try to make it work. Like, I think I would try to live. If it was like a peaceful entity and we could like make it work. Or if they were like, well, you need to solve my murder and then I'll be nice. Like, okay.
Okay. That might be good.
Yeah. I could do zombies would be my total answer though.
Okay. Well, if there's a zombie apocalypse, I'm coming to your house.
My husband's been waiting for one for years.
So you're prepared. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He wants it. He wants to play The Walking Dead and he's all about it. So.
Okay. Well, Mr. Carol Marie Reeds is going to be on my zombie apocalypse team too. So
yes.
Perfect. All right. Next question. What is a book that surprised you the most by how much you enjoyed it?
This one was kind of hard to think about because I will DNF like no other. First sentence, first page, 50, 70% through. Like, I'm pretty good at DNFing. And since I know what I like, I usually don't have to DNF that often unless it's like just I'm not in the mood. But for this, it's going to go back to one of my favorite books of all time, which is kind of weird. Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir.
Okay.
It's sci-fi, technically, a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of horror and gore and weirdness. And so that's one of the reasons why I didn't think I would like it is the sci-fi aspect. Even though I grew up watching Star Wars and the X-Files is one of my favorite like shows of all time. I grew up watching that as well. Like, so I like watching sci-fi things. I've just always had an issue reading sci-fi things. So I didn't think I would like that because the tagline is like lesbian necromancers in space. So, but it has such a cool cover that I had to read it. Like when it came out, I was like, I gotta read it. And I loved it. It actually like references internet memes, but like it doesn't take you out of the story because if you don't know that that's what it's referencing, like you would never know.
Okay.
It references Mean Girls. Like it's like the jokes, they're in there, but you wouldn't know them unless you knew the context. So when I heard that, I was like, this is totally gonna take me out. I don't like when a book dates itself. I don't like when there's a ton of pop culture references. But it just flows and it's just like perfect. So yeah, it made me want to read more sci-fi.
Wow. That is fascinating. That book did not have a lot going for it in your book. So
yeah, I was like, man, the only thing I want is the cover and the sprayed edges, like really badass. And
then it turned out to be an all-time favorite.
Yes, I reread it all the time. I'll always listen to the audiobook. So
awesome. That's cool. Well, in that case, judging a book by its cover really worked out well.
Yes.
All right. What is a genre, subgenre, or trope that you would like to read more of? Especially since you said you gravitate typically towards the same things. What's something different you'd like to read more of?
Sci-fi horror stuff. So
Okay.
Earlier this year, I read Parasite by Darcy Coates, and that's about a group of astronauts or whatever they're called that are in space, and like something, obviously it's called Parasite, something is taking over. Leech by Hiron Ennis is a book that I really like as well, and that I think that can be like a sci-fi thing too. But I want to get more into like space horror, because space is terrifying. Like it's like you can't even comprehend how big it is, what's out there. And so I know I just got approved for an arc for some kind of space horror coming out. I think it's by S.A. Barnes, I want to say. Like they did some other kind of horror sci-fi ebook last year. But I want to read more of that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good answer, because like I don't really like sci-fi either. But if you cross it over with another genre that you do enjoy, like horror, that could be a good way to find some more books and get more into it. So
yeah. And I can't believe that I didn't even mention Ray Bradbury in my favorite books, because a lot of his stuff is sci-fi. To many people, they consider it sci-fi, but he would call it fantasy. He said, if I ever write anything that is completely impossible, then it's fantasy. So when he has people living on Mars with no breathing apparatus or anything, he's like, that's a fantasy story. So I was like, I was like, no, as soon as you put space in there,
I'm with you. Like I define it from like space and technology is more of the sci-fi aspect in my mind. But I mean,
I read a lot of his
wrong with his argument.
Yeah, I get it. And I read a lot of his stuff, which is, to me, sci-fi. But he's like the best prose ever. So he doesn't matter what he writes, I'll read it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like Venus Escapes to Read will be your buddy in more space horror. You guys will have to exchange recommendations and TBR ideas.
Yeah, Parasite, that was so much fun. It was such a fun read. Even though like it's gory and scary.
It's body. So it has to be body horror, right?
Yeah.
The title says it all. Well, speaking of recommendations from fellow booktubers, what is the last book you read because you saw it on BookTube?
This one, I think I had to write down for this one because I couldn't really. I get a lot of recommendations more. I feel like I see something on Bookstagram and Book Talk first, and then I see it on YouTube. I also feel like I follow a lot of the BookTube channels. I don't read similarly to them all the time. Like I just like watching them because they keep me motivated to read. But I think I saw Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead on BookTube first because Michelle loves Ashley Winstead and Lexi, if you know Lexi. So they were like hyping it up before it came out and stuff. So that's the last book I read. It was my first Ashley Winstead. I might go back and read her other stuff. But it was. So
you liked it?
I did, but what did they? I think it was the tagline or someone blurbed it as Twilight meets Where the Crawdad Sings or something. Like it was so wild, but totally accurate, which sounds stupid, but it wasn't. Like it was good. It was like a mystery thriller thing. Like I don't have much to say about it because the ending was like I literally like messaged people like in Michelle's Discord and I was like, what the hell was that? Like what am I supposed to do with that? So, that was fun. I liked that, but maybe I'll see what she does in the future before.
Michelle and Lexi have fantastic thriller recommendations, so I would totally trust their recommendations for those. Awesome. Well, what is a plot pet peeve that you have in books?
My go-to answer for this, I was thinking about it, would be like, it was all a dream, like at the very end. But I feel like they don't do that anymore. Like, I feel like I've not seen a movie, read a book Nothing like that in a really long time that had that trope where like, oh, none of this is real. Like, and because then I kind of feel like, what a waste. But when it comes to like, but I'm okay if I almost just spoiled a book. So I'm okay with maybe like the character was dead the whole time. Even though that's kind of like predictable, usually that's easy to guess. And I also like unreliable narrators because although they're lying to me, I don't feel like I'm wasting my time because they have a reason to lie. So I guess if it like the ending is like, this wasn't real or this isn't, and then I woke up.
Yeah, like a dream sequence. I agree with you.
Yeah, because I can't really, nothing really bothers me about book. Like
authors must love you then.
oh no, I can rip apart some books. I just mean like there's not, I feel like most things can be done well when they're, done by the right person. So like if a book ends on an ambivalent ending, some authors do that so good and I am okay with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it depends on the story too. Like maybe it's the type of story that you need a firm ending, but if they do it well, I'm okay with it.
Well, that's a really good point. It's so hard to say that you dislike a trope or, a certain plot line or something because it's not a blanket statement. It can work really well in some. So I often find myself making a hypocrite of myself because I'm like, wait, I said I hate this kind of a thing, and now it really worked over here. So it does definitely depend.
Like my pop culture references and my Gideon the Ninth favorite book of all time. Like that makes no sense. But
yeah. On paper, that book, you were not the audience for that book, but it turned out to be really good. So it's so good to have awareness of what you enjoy, but also keep an open mind.
Yeah. And books aren't like, you might have an author. Like I love Stephen King, but he's got so many books. There's books of his that I absolutely hate and then I absolutely love, so it's not, I feel like with enough books and stories out there, you got to just kind of accept it. And, if you don't like it, move on.
Well, what's a Stephen King that you dislike? Because you said It was your favorite.
The Running Man, Roadwork, Insomnia.
Oh, there's a list.
Oh yeah, I got quite the. I can think of some, and it's just like, oh man, I don't know what it is about those ones. They're not like it's not like it's all the same type of issues that I have with them. Like he does have a hard time with endings sometimes, but when he's good, he's good. So
yeah,
that's why I keep reading him. So
oh yeah, such variety. Well, who is a character that you most relate to?
This is hard too because I feel like life comes in such seasons. Mm-hmm. So I'm a different person than I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever. And I'm like going through different things in life. But I try to think like the last character that I was like, yes, like I agree or I feel the same way. The mom, like the main woman from Night Bitch. By Rachel Yoder. Okay.
Oh my gosh, that is so
I have a big problem with that book, but I loved it because she's like, wow, I am a new mom and I am losing my mind. And she's like, you know what? I think I'm going to turn into a dog and just run around the neighborhood with all the dogs at night. And I was like, hell yeah. Like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, because I think your kids are similar ages because I think she has like a 3-year-old and you have a 4-year-old, right?
Yeah, and so when I read that, he would have been like 2 or 3 or whatever, like, and I would have, oh, man, you are just in it, like at that, and I was thinking too of like, I don't mean this in like, I'm not talking down about myself, but I like don't do much right now. I stay home. I've got like side hustles, but it's hard to like connect. I'm not out there in corporate America anymore. So like if I read a book about like the corporate America or something, I would probably be attached to that character more. But like that Night Bitch, And but also I read how Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. That came out, and I read that right within a few weeks' time of me quitting like my career and starting to stay home. And so that was kind of like hitting me too, because these are about women who have been stay-at-home moms like their whole adult life, essentially. Like that's been their career long thing. And so like I was like connecting with them, although my husband is not a piece of shit like their husbands were.
That's good to hear.
He's a good guy. But it was like just like the change. Like that was a big change for me. Like I was
huge, yeah.
I was like in management, and I was important and making good money, but it was just like the right thing to do at the time. And it was like reading that, I was like, you know what? I could be a stay-at-home mom and slay vampires. Okay.
Sounds like a good, see, and that could be the horror trope that you excel well in.
There you go. Vampires. I start a book club and we slay vampires. Perfect.
Yeah, life goals. All right. Well, those are the 10 questions. So now we have the 5 would you rathers designed to get to know your reading preferences and styles. I think the first question is going to be the toughest because I can't even think of what I would answer for this. So I'm going to make you do it.
Okay.
So would you rather only read books in your favorite subgenre the rest of your life, only that subgenre, or never read anything? Oh, wait, hold on. I mixed it up. Only read books in your favorite subgenre the rest of your life, or never read anything other than that subgenre. So like subgenre weird horror. You can only read that and nothing else, or you can never read it again. But you can have a lot of variety.
Never read it.
Never read it again?
Yeah, because I feel like I could cheat. Like one of my favorite weird horror books is like technically literary fiction too. So. No, but if I wasn't gonna like cheat, if it was gonna be like a hard line, I would never read it again.
Interesting. So especially, that's not the answer I expected, since you said you don't typically stray from like your favorites.
Yeah, but then I think about like fantasy. Like even though I wouldn't say like that's been my most read genre recently, I feel like I would really miss it if I never had it.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. Would you rather read paranormal horror or realistic horror? Realistic horror, I think of like home invasion tropes. Could be one. I mean, a virus is kind of realistic, especially with what we've been through.
Yeah, I'd probably do paranormal.
Like those haunted houses.
Yeah, because I take in true crime. So like I'd rather have some ghosts or something.
I think I'd have the same answer too. I really like haunted houses. So
yeah, and it reminds me of Halloween and fall, and that's my holiday. Like that, we got married on Halloween. I love Halloween. So
happy anniversary.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, so I feel like that kind of goes with that vibe. Gothic, like if I'm gonna read a gothic ghost story on Christmas, it's gonna, so.
Okay. Would you rather read in the daytime or the nighttime?
Daytime. Because if I get to be outside and read, I really like that. Like when it's not too cold, it's got to be like perfect. But
yeah, I think the season kind of makes a difference for that for sure.
Yeah, and I like to sleep. So
thank you, some other character. Thank you so much. They want to know cats or dogs.
This hurts my heart, but dogs.
Why does it hurt your heart?
because I used to be such a cat person. And then like as I got older and moved out and didn't have cats anymore, I developed allergies. And now we have a dog and had dogs. We had 2 boxers who we lost like in the past couple of years, and then we've got a dog now. So they're just fun.
And your dog makes cameos in your videos too.
Yes,
I like
she's
the
very
footage
good
on your like deck.
Yeah.
And then I feel like you have like beautiful trees, like fall leaves and stuff. And
Yep.
I think you have like snowy stuff in the wintertime. I'm excited to see your snow.
No snow.
No, I'm excited for it because I live in Phoenix. I live in the desert, so I don't get snow. So I live vicariously through you and your BookTube channel to see all the seasons.
On Halloween night, when Trick or Treat was ending, it started snowing, and then we had snow, like accumulated snow outside in the next day, and I was not ready for it.
Do you play in the snow with your dog?
I try not to. That's my husband's job. I make him do the cold things. Like,
Okay.
he wants, like, if our kid wants to go and play in this, I'm like, that's a dad job. I will play with you outside in like the spring and the summer and the fall, but like the cold, not for me.
Gotcha.
I call the winter time knees to chest season, because anytime you're outside, you need to hustle, like knees to chest, like no messing around. Get to the car, get to the building. Like, no.
I was thinking knees to chest, like curled up in the fetal position, like under a blanket. Like not
that works too for the seasonal depression. Perfect.
Yeah, there you go. That's coming up with ideas.
That's hilarious.
Would you rather read a dual timeline or have it be in consecutive order?
I think I want to go with dual timeline, because usually that means dual POV or multi POV. I really like multiple points of view, especially like in a fantasy book where maybe like one character, I don't know, like they don't know what the other person is doing and they're both like trying to do things in like a negative way though. Like Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire. I like seeing people, essentially it's like behind the scenes of the story where like one character A doesn't know what character B is doing, and we're watching both of these characters plot and do their own thing, and you're like just sitting there like this is gonna be a mess, or this, you know, like I really like that. Yeah. Like seeing it come together.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like that element, but like there is a very fine line for me. I hate multiple POVs when there's like 5 and their voices are all very similar and I can't tell them apart, and you're waiting, and for sometimes you're waiting to see how they all come together. But it, like if it doesn't come together until like the last chapter, it can be really annoying. Not all the time, but
yeah. And I think that's another thing, that if an author does it well, then it's good. Like if you can, like you said, distinguish the characters, keep track of what they're doing and where they're at. I think George R.R. Martin does that very, very well.
Mm-hmm. So. Yep, I agree. Hi, Fantasy Awash. Thanks for stopping by. All right, last one. Would you rather read with noise or in silence? Do you like to have noise? Okay.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. Sometimes I would do ASMR rooms, but I usually have the TV on and I'm like maybe like replaying something that I've seen like a million times. So it's not like it would distract me or anything, but my whole life is noise. So
it'd be more disturbing for you probably if it was silence than more distracting.
Yeah.
And with a 4-year-old, it's like if there's silence, like someone's
not good, especially if him and the dog are quiet. Not good.
Yeah.
They're best friends, so they work against me.
And so you can read with the TV on. That's interesting. I get distracted if there's like voices. So like I love to listen to music, but I don't like lyrics. I like instrumental. And so with TV, it gets distracting. Even if it's something I've seen a million times, because I love to rewatch shows and movies.
Yeah.
So I still get distracted. Like,
yeah. I think it's just being with my husband for so long. He's not really a reader. Like he does audiobooks. But like if you wanted to sit and watch a movie, like I don't care about it, then, you know, I could sit and read. It's kind of like something I've had to just do over time. So it's like, I don't know. I can block it out pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, I found like when my boyfriend is watching a movie, I put in the audiobook and I read it. So I've got like an immersive experience, can't hear the TV, and he's watching some like action movie, and yeah. goes well. Good background noise, explosions from my like contemporary romance, or you know, you've got Iron Flame and I don't know, whatever the Fast and the Furious family is getting up to. I don't know what he's watching. Well, that was it. Those were all the interview questions. Thank you so much for subjecting yourselves to the tough questions, like your favorite books. And
thank you. I was kind of nervous about the either or the rather, but I kind of fly by the seat of my pants all the time. So,
well, and it's designed to be, see, they weren't that difficult, and it's designed to be, you know, the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
You know, kind of rapid fire, but yeah, thank you so much for participating. And for those watching, if you have not checked out the BookTube channel, Carol Marie Reads, please do so. She's got awesome vlogs, great variety, great mix of horror and fantasy and other things. An adorable dog, soon playing in the snow. We'll get some snow footage soon. So, all right. Thank you, Carol Marie. And thank you everyone for watching. Bye.
Bye.